writing is all about taking emotions and feelings and putting them into the written word, the same way that visual artists will turn those same things into visual images.
Looking back now. You're gonna still use the same story, but you're gonna do it.
I don't know if I'll have kids.
I'm incorporating the theme Flashback into my story by using an old tale my mom used to tell me, and I'm writing a story based on that tale on what would happen if I didn't listen to her.
Your flashback has ended. You're back to like the current state.
I'm Bailey, and this piece is untitled. Teenagers are like birds. You probably know a peacock or two, loud and flamboyant, maybe even a dodo, oblivious and carefree. But deep down, you know the truth. Most of us are pigeons. My friends here at this summer camp in Berlin form a whole flock of pigeons. Fluttering around this unfamiliar city, we provide each other strength in numbers. We roost in the playground, hidden in the high-walled park. We play the game teenagers play when we don't know each other well, truth or dare. It's above average for a game of truth or dare, which is to say it isn't very good at all, but it is fun, so we keep playing, chattering on and on and on. We don't pick a stopping point, but eventually we fizzle into a giggly silence, drunk on soda and summer air. This is when the cat finds our flock. He comes in the form of a man, disheveled and drunk. He pounds on the walls of our enclosure, shouting at us in a language none of us understand, waving his passport madly. We resolve to ignore him, hoping he'll wander off. He doesn't. Instead, the cat begins to climb, intent on encroaching on our territory. We flee, a storm of pigeons careening in every direction we can identify as out. Through this, the dodos in our midst are revealed. 3 of our number stay back, convinced they can de-escalate, maybe, make a friend. Whatever they're trying to do, they flap and squawk in protest all the way as I drag them back to the hotel, the cat prowling in our wake. The dodos settle when the rest of the flock does, finally safe in the haven of the elevator, the doors closing, protecting us from our pursuers' wild eyes, and for a moment, we couldn't care less about the temporary nature of our connection. We're bound together by unforgettable highs of adrenaline and exhilaration.
Procrastination by Robert. Although I could wake up now and give in to my roommate's wise words of get up, we've got to go, that snooze button looks really enticing. And I could shower, but first, I'm kind of hungry and those pancakes sound real good. I could go get ready now, but I'd rather do literally anything else. As I look at the time on my wallpaper, it reads 8:43. Now I'm rushing to get ready, and that doesn't happen until about 2 minutes before I'm late. I walk out the house at 8:59, realizing that I have to squeeze a 2-minute walk down to about 45 seconds. There seems to be one problem. It's been snowing, which means that I have to march up that slippery slope that I've seen 20 of you kids slip down. As I take my 45-second journey, it slowly turns into a 3-minute walk as I fight my way up that treacherous hill that seems to love embarrassing people in front of their peers. Once I make it all the way up, I run into the building, and in the class, I feel their eyes piercing through me. As I walk into class, I hear someone say, "You're 1 minute late." I go to sit down and start writing this incredibly chaotic story for you all. Although you could look at me and call what I did laziness, I would call it strategy. And I know what you're thinking. Strategy for what? I don't really know. Now it's Thursday and I'm presenting this story to all my peers who will probably think I'm crazy. And honestly, if you've seen me this past week, I mean, there's no doubt. After the ceremony, I will go back and stare at the homework I was given for the week. And I'll say my favorite line. I'll let future me deal with it.
My name is Shada Gould, and this is a piece called Convincing Myself. I can assure you that I had no part in it, not in the least. And would you close those curtains? You're letting in a draft. Now, who told you? How did you find out? From her, I'm guessing. It's unfortunate that it happened at all, but see, the cracks have been showing for quite some time. I really was the best friend she could have had. she was just so sad and lonely. It was her loss that she ended things like she did. Why were we friends in the first place? Well, it was purely circumstantial. She was just the first person I had met at the time. First day of school, 7th grade, I'm lounging in the back of my science class, by the window, and she comes over to me. Brown hair covering her face, wrinkled clothes. We start talking, it just happens. Wait, she would never seek me out. She was so reserved. Maybe I came to her. Probably the only seat left in the classroom. It just happened so long ago. Anyways, you knew her. I should have when I got closer to her, but I didn't. And we were inseparable for some time. 2 years? Yes, it must have been. That's besides the point, though. We don't need to dwell on it for too long. I can fix you some tea, and what's that, you ask? On the sill? It's a drawing that she made me a while ago. Sorry. It's something she drew, a character I liked then. The paper had torn a bit since she gifted it to me. She knew me too well. And I kept it, even now. I don't know what else to do with it, really. I know, you must think I'm a jerk. Somewhere in all that I told you, you think I hold something against her. You must think I ended our friendship, too. Well, I tore it. I tore the drawing here. Just like she tore me into little shreds from her life, and it felt good, too. Then I realized it couldn't. I had deleted the last text she sent. I only remember that it was wrong. Oh, so wrong. I didn't do any of it. She had brought this beast out of me based entirely on her own insecurity. Wait, what am I doing? I was hurt. I still am, but she wasn't all that terrible when we were still friends. There are still pieces of her in here. I want them to go away. I want to forget about them, but perhaps I never will.
I'm Jennifer, and this is A Real Tall Tale. Wind blew harshly against my face, making it harder to breathe as I ran. I couldn't stop, not now when she was so close. Every step I took caused the autumn leaves to crackle beneath my shoes, and the bush branches left harsh marks against my ankles as I continued sprinting through the woods. I almost tripped on a branch when her horrid call echoed through the forest. Kakoi! Her harsh cry led the birds to abandon their perches in the trees and fly off into the night sky. I hadn't even noticed her at first when I was at the pond. It was only when she let out her horrid screech that I had noticed her. The kukui was a creature that my mom would always tell me tales about. My mom would say the kukui would eat me if I ever went outside without her or strayed too far from her side. Just the mimic of the kukui's call was terrifying, as my mom would sometimes threaten to call her. My mom said she got the idea from my dad's grandma, but I never had any clue what she looked like. I had only thought she was some tall tale, but now I knew she was real. Being eaten was not one of my goals, but I had wanted to see the pond so bad that I snuck out at night. And now all I felt was regret. Kukui! Her screech rang out once more, closer than ever before. I didn't even have time to react before her claws dug into my skin and lifted me up. The sound of screaming resounded throughout the woods, that blood-curdling sound having come from my own mouth. If anyone had heard it, they might have come to help, but I was too deep into the forest for it to be heard. The kukui was pitch black, managing to stand out from the shadows of the trees and being darker than the starless sky. My body was raised higher than a street lamp. Her arms looked to be so long that they would drag across the floor if I wasn't trapped in the creature's grip. Then her eyes, her eyes flashed white one second and red the next, like some sort of illusion for the mind. I was so distracted by my thoughts, I almost didn't know that she was lifting me higher, towards her void of a mouth. Warm tears ran down my face, heating it for the last time as she dug her needle teeth into my flesh. My last thought as I felt the cold seep into my body was, I should have listened to my mom.
Hi, my name is Jules, and my piece is called The Wave. Being a military child, me and my family moved quite a lot. about a dozen times actually, and I found that each duty station has unique things to offer, memories to be made, and new things to try. One adventure we've had happened a few years ago when we were stationed in Hawaii. On a bright and sunny day, me, my siblings, and our friends pack up and go with our families to a beach called the Mermaid Caves. We decide not to go in the caves, but instead go to the part of the beach where they have shore break. We run down the hot sand and jump straight into the cool blue water. The powerful waves are about 4 to 5 feet tall and easy to swim in. However, the waves would quickly rise in height before the lifeguard can say anything. They rise to be about 8 to 10 feet tall, way above our swimming skill level. My friend shouts for everyone to dive under the waves. Everyone tries really hard, but only my sister and friend dive under successfully. My brother and I are taken up on the first wave to strike. We are carried up to the top and then slammed down forcefully on the shore. We land hard, but thankfully manage not to break anything. However, while we're on the top of the wave and I'm looking around, scared, my life quickly flashes before my eyes. In these moments, you see all that you've done, but more importantly, all the things you haven't done. In my life, I would like to take chances, try everything, and pursue my dreams so that when or if my life flashes before my eyes, I won't have any regrets. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Red, and I will be reading a poem that I wrote called To Fix Rhythms. And one day Atlas will reach down with his star-scarred hands, and he will dip inside of me, count my vertebrae, run his nails over the ridges, shudder a breath of space through before wrenching my spine into place. As I watch from behind his bicep, and the projection of me will shade the crumbled steps to the sky. That projection that uttered red words and whispered to itself in darkness. That hologram that impressed itself onto my wrists and the faces that follow me and vow empty sweet phrases. That ghost that took up residence in my skin and brought its demons to the surface until the room stank of pale, steaming flesh with no name. One day Atlas will reach down with his sky-studded fingertips, and he will rummage through my shadow, shearing with star edges the more disgusting, more putrid parts, trimming the fat and bile and unnecessary shreds that reflect grief, and that phantom inside me will leave, and so will I. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lauren, and this piece is called Catching Fireflies. It was the summer before I turned 8 or 9 at my grandmother's wooden slat house nestled in a valley of the Appalachian Mountains, constructed in a time when the mountains still had coal and its inhabitants still had jobs. It was dusk and the day's heat faded with its sun. Tiny yellow stars came into view as fireflies flew from the forest, pinpricks of light as above so below. I heard the whine of the sliding porch door, then the soft steps of Uncle Petey as he approached where I sat in the yard, watching the world shift into night. In his hands were mason jars with sharp holes poked through the lids. As gently as he did everything else, he led me into the yard and showed me how to catch fireflies. Giggling and scaring off more than we managed to catch, we squinted our eyes for the dancing, blinking lights that hid in the bushes in the garden, within the house's white lattice stained blue by the sky's last light. As the sun fully disappeared, we sat swaying in the creaking porch swing, holding jars full of stars within our hands.
My name is Patrick, and this is Lights Out. It was raining. I was a young boy, imaginative, thinking up 100 monsters lurking in the dark while I was trying to sleep. I tossed and turned. I had my eyes squeezed shut when a queer thought entered my head. I glanced around to assuage my fears of a fake monster staring at me while I slept, when my eyes went over a cloaked figure at the foot of the bed. My blood ran cold. I figured I should reach out and grab the cloak, but then I pictured long, protruding white fangs sinking into my neck. So I just sat and stared until the feeling of terror, of the foreboding sense that the hour of action was here, overwhelmed me. I screamed at the top of my lungs for my father to come and save me from this denizen of the dark. My father burst through the door, and in the light, it was like Pretty clearly, just like a red, fluffy blanket. I slept on a bunk bed, so the blanket kind of fallen off, and it looked like it was a vampire. I pointed to it, and I was like, Dad, it's a vampire! And he looks at me and gives me like the longest sigh I've ever heard. And he says, dude, it's a blanket. And he puts it back up. And I go to bed, and it's probably the most restful sleep I've ever had.
My name is Desi, and I'm going to be reading Bittersweet Water. Summer. The months of June and July filled with more nostalgic memories than any other month of the year. With fun, laughter, and silly mistakes comes a sense of impending doom felt when summer nears the end. Every summer during my elementary years, my family would take a trip down to the state where everything is bigger, hotter, and larger. Yeah, you guessed it, Texas. We'd go through 12 hours of driving with mini breaks, because of course someone always needs to pee or eat. The drive full of annoying banters, are we there yet, and boring family games were all worth it for the fun-packed week in Texas. The destination was an old yet well-kept farmhouse owned by someone who soon after would unfortunately pass away. Unbeknownst to us, the tradition of Texas would soon come to an unfortunate, tragic ending. Despite this, there were many fond memories at this ragged yet magical farmhouse. However, one memory reigned triumphant over all: our tradition of water fights. What's that, you may be thinking? A tradition that entails grabbing cups, buckets, or anything that can hold water, pouring onto anyone near. It involves getting soaked from the tippy top of the head to the very bottom of the toes. The last one anyone went to, I had the liberty of starting up this tradition, grabbing a red Solo cup, a giant smile on my face, giggling as my Nana encourages me to run outside and pour it on the person's closest to me, which of course I would. That spiraled into everyone pouring water on anyone they possibly can. All chaos rang through at this moment. All that seemed to matter during this was family, fun, and living in the present moment. Though that was the last reunion, it will forever be engraved in the mind of mine and many others. Summer, the month of fond memories, wishing you could go back, and missing what once was. The month of wondering what could be if I held on to my childhood just a little longer. I'm Red again. And I'll be reading another poem that I wrote called Gold. You will expunge breath from your lungs, and that breath will carry spores, and the wallpaper will peel away to a butterfly shadow of brittle crust, and your body will lay in congealed darkness. There was a day I drank from a cup running over, and my lips were stained with turquoise rot, and it reached down under my skin and rushed to expel itself through my membrane, leaving me in my powdered, shriveled remains. Awareness of your urges places them atop of my elytra, so I reveal to you my decayed, spoiled past, sagging and grotesque, and when you tilt your head to the pitcher, you will reject its flows, rather than engulf those mildewed waters.
Hi, I'm Vivian, and I'm reading The Last Thimble. The first time I visited my Mimi's house, I immediately gravitated towards the large glass cabinet in the living room. The cupboard contained my grandmother's treasure trove, hundreds of thimbles in every shape and size, metal and porcelain, old and new. My grandmother knew no bounds when it came to collecting. Thimbles, bells, plates, jewelry, she reminded me of a magpie, hoarding every shiny thing she saw. As a child, I would spend hours upon hours observing, putting my grubby hands on everything. I was particularly fascinated by the thimbles, though. I would stare at them for hours, inspecting each one, noticing its designs and motifs, its chips or cracks. I loved to ask my grandma about the places she got them from. I loved to hear the stories of Mexico, Canada, and Alaska, every trip and journey she'd taken. She'd also had ones that loved ones had bought her, including us. Every trip we took, we had to buy her a thimble. England, France, Portugal, Germany, Italy. If they had a thimble, we bought it. I loved seeing her smile when I gave it to her, then watching her place it amongst all others in the precious collection. Of course, one day there was a final thimble. It came from the Ely Christmas market. A vendor was selling chunky, over-the-top jewelry, another obsession of my Mimi's. I bought her a necklace that had a chipped thimble strung on a thin gold chain. It had beautiful rose designs on it, her favorite flower. By this time, she was in her late 80s with dementia that only got worse with each phone call and visit. I unfortunately received the news that she had passed before I could mail it. I didn't know that it would be the last thimble, and to be honest, it sounds silly, but I didn't ever think she'd die. I just assumed she'd live forever, I guess. When I miss her, I pull that necklace out of my jewelry box and turn it over and over again. It's nice to know she's still with me, even though she's gone.
Hello again, my name is Lauren, and to close out our creative writing portion of the night, I have Before You Flashback. A grand week now lies behind us. We all have reason to stand tall. And when you flash back to this moment, I hope this moment is small. Yes, we have done great things with ink and film from blood and dirt, but before we wash and rest in our laurels, let us do greater things first. One day we will baffle at our ignorance, the things we haven't learned, the mistakes we are still blind to, the ground we haven't earned. For none of us have summited. Let this not be our peak. Let us not be so fixed on what's behind us we forget to move our feet. When you look back at this moment, I hope you have to strain your eyes to discern it from your vantage point upon the hills you've climbed. So let not pride be your burden, nor nostalgia stop you cold. Before you flash back to this moment, make it further up the road.